Hi, my name is Hannah Parker, and today I will be arguing against the moral issue of capital punishment on the basis of a natural law theory. The use of capital punishment in convicting criminals of capital offenses has been used since the early ages. However, the execution of Captain George Kendall of Virginia in 1608 was the first implementation of capital punishment in the United States. Over the years, opinions on this topic have varied vastly. However, as of 2019, 21 states have abolished capital punishment, while 4 have temporarily prohibited executions of the sort. In evaluating the basic human values and applying the doctrine of double effect, the two components that constitute the natural law theory, I will ultimately argue against the unnatural use of capital punishment and explain why the American criminal justice system should abolish it in exchange for a less extreme but equally effective form of retribution. The core of natural law is composed of 4 human values, those being human life, human procreation, human knowledge, and human sociability. This set of basic goods hold intrinsic value, and any direct violation or destruction is considered intrinsically bad. The case of capital punishment ultimately infringes on the sacredness and dignity associated with human life, that of the first core value, and produces intrinsic bad. Anti-abolitionists will argue that capital punishment does produce intrinsic good by deterring criminals and preserving future human life. In order to assess whether or not capital punishment is in direct violation of the natural law core, the doctrine of double effect will be applied. The doctrine of double effect is utilized in evaluating direct or indirect violation where at least one good and one bad intrinsic value are produced. Thus, it can be stated that an action, capital punishment, that would bring about at least one evil effect, death, and at least one good effect, preservation of human life and justice, is morally permissible if and only if the following conditions are satisfied. These 4 conditions be intrinsic permissibility, necessity, non-intentionality, and proportionality. First, the provision of intrinsic permissibility of capital punishment is unsatisfied because apart from the conviction, it is unlawful to kill another human being unless considered self-defense. If murder is illegal, then it should not be morally permissible for the court of law to directly take the life of another human being. In fact, since 1973, the United States court system has convicted 165 innocent people and sentenced them to death. This statistic alone proves that the court system cannot 100% satisfy that each convicted criminal is truly guilty. However, in instances where life sentences are awarded instead of the death penalty, more criminals are rightfully exonerated over time. Secondly, the necessity of capital punishment is that of preference and not true need. Other considerations of retribution include sentencing of life to jail without parole. This can also create the same effect that capital punishment can while avoiding the bad effect, death. Many anti-abolitionists will argue that the death penalty is necessary because it deters criminals from committing capital offenses. However, over the years, statistics have not proven this to be true. In fact, some states where capital punishment has been abolished, there have not been increased crime rates or capital crime offenses. In fact, in his address on capital punishment as president in 2012, Jimmy Carter expressed that states, especially southern states, with capital punishment laws experience higher rates of murder and capital crimes overall in comparison to states who have abolished executions. Thus, it can be concluded that death does not serve the purpose of retribution more effectively than life imprisonment. The Eighth Amendment of the Constitution focuses on cruel and unusual punishment, and this has raised concerns in many court cases, such as the Furman v. Georgia court case. In this case, it was ruled that due to a lack of standards, the court was imposing the death sentence in a bizarre way. Since then, many states have formed new capital punishment laws with separate sentence hearings after conviction of crime in order to conduct proper retribution decisions. In conclusion of this provision, the death sentence proves ineffective as means of vengeance and dissuasion, and therefore is not necessary when other forms of punishment are equally, if not more, effective. Intentionality, the third provision, is also dissatisfied because capital punishment is indeed formally known as the intentional execution of an offender. Lastly, the proportionality of the two effects is indeed not balanced. Because execution of the criminal is out of proportion to the justice received for his or her wrongdoings, as well as the means of deterrence, which may or may not lead to future preservation of innocent lives, capital punishment should not be enforced as the proper means of justice. The cost associated with executing a criminal on death row is far out of proportion to any good that could result. Taxpayers end up paying more in legal and trial costs, incarceration, and appeals for death row convicts than they would for confining convicts to life in prison. Cost analysis often find that the death penalty costs roughly 4 to 6 times that of life imprisonment cases. In conclusion, the theory of natural law finds capital punishment morally unnatural due to its direct violation of human life as proven through the doctrine of double effect. In order to stay committed to providing justice while also respecting the value of human life, the United States justice system needs to reevaluate appropriate means of punishment for capital crimes. Further, funds previously capitalized for death row trials can be awarded back to taxpayers or used for implementation of institutions for criminals sentenced to death. Overall, this change in the justice system falls in line with the theory of natural law because it preserves human life and produces no intrinsic evil. Thank you.